My first take on this is Orlando got duped. How do you not get at least Noe back in this deal?
Right. Get the cash and an asset.
They should have got $400K, the max for each of those players, plus the asset. New Jersey Fives threw essentially a mega package, like insane package of players at the LA Mad Drops to try and get Ben Johns. They didn't care who they had left as long as they had Ben and Annalie together. All right, everybody, welcome back to The Line, brought to you by MLP, presented by DoorDash. Shout out to our sponsor, Polymarket. I'm your host, Jimmy Miller, with the one and only Adam Stone. Fun fact, I don't know if anyone knows this yet, but these new rules that are coming out next year and possible salary cap, one of the things on there, and maybe I'll get in trouble for this, is each team has to have a representative at every event.
Yep. Yeah. SoCal's all set.
Even if your team's not playing in that event, you have to have a representative there.
Oh, not playing the event representation. Okay. That's interesting.
It says every single event.
Okay. All right.
That'd be interesting. Sounds like Vinny Brasha needs to dust off the
GM of the SoCal Hard Eights, Vinny Brasha. Yeah. And he was, I tell you what, in San Diego, he was getting the fans riled up too. So big shout out to Vinny with the cowbells and making some magic happen with the home fans.
I actually think that's what I want to start with. We always try to do our stock up and stock down segment, and sometimes we get to it, sometimes we don't. But I got to go massive stock up right off the top to Vinny Brasha, the SoCal Hard Eights, the fans, the dice, the cowbells. It was electric when we played you guys it was on Grandstand, but we went to a Dream Breaker. Ended up 24-22, just an insane battle. I don't know if you took a minute to turn around and look up into the stands, but it was 4 or 5 people deep onto the sidewalk. It was loud. The energy was insane. Like, that is what MLP is to me. That was incredible.
No, I agree completely. So we did a little event at the Hub, which is our owner, Rick Chan's place in San Diego, plus gave out the free gear and had a nice vibe throughout the weekend. And that, you're exactly right. You might get that, or you will get that more frequently on CC, but to have the rows 4 or 5 deep on Grandstand for that matchup against you guys, the Cal Black Bears, that was some California love right there.
It was, and it was good pickleball, and it just felt like it was. It just reminded me of the old school MLP days, right? There was good-natured chirping, there was cheering, it was awesome. Samin said it reminded him of Rucker Park in New York when, the NBA guys show up to play basketball and everybody gathers around in the huddles, and it was awesome. And I thought the whole weekend in San Diego was incredible. Great venue, good atmosphere, and a lot of that has to do with you guys in LA really brought out the fans.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And there was some good-natured ribbing, specifically from Pablo Tellez on your side and Armand Bhatia on our side. Yeah. So it was intense. It was high quality pickle, but there was some flat out shit talk going on too, and that makes for a good vibe, I think.
Absolutely, it was the battle of who has the more busted backhand in that one, because they were going at each other. Armand said, "I'll find your backhand, Pablo. I'll find it." And I don't know if you heard this, but so afterwards in the pro players lounge, Armand walks in and goes straight to Pablo. He wasn't done. And he says to Pablo, he goes, "You gave Joey Wild a terrible strategy against me in the Dream Breaker." He goes, "That was a terrible strategy." And he's like, "I passed him down the line 3 times in a row, same spot." And Pablo just kind of with his backhand, exactly. And Pablo just kind of shrugs, and Zoe was having none of it. And Zoe says, "Hey, Armand, congrats on winning your part of the Dream Breaker. Good thing it's a team game, huh?" And just gives it right back to him. And it's fun. It was fun. Like, it was, if you haven't been to an MLP event, you got to get out. It was incredible atmosphere this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Agree with all that. And let's just get right into it here. Big time trades and moving pieces that are absolutely going to affect the 2026 winner for Major League Pickleball. And of course, right at the top, we got to talk Fed and Millie Rane to the fives. What do we think about that, and how do we believe that that allows them to match up and stack up against St. Louis and a couple of the other teams, specifically the Sliders, who I have in the three hole in the rankings, and some of the other ones as well, with Brooklyn, Drops, and Flash a little bit below them?
Yeah, so it's really interesting to me because my first take on this is Orlando got duped. And the only reason I say that is how do you not get at least Noe back in this deal?
Right. An
The
asset.
fact
Yeah,
that
get the
they
cash
got
and an asset.
exactly. They should have got 400K, the max for each of those players plus the asset. I mean, I think that fives are that desperate. The Shock have been that dominant, and it's crazy to not get that back in that deal. With that being said, you add Millie, who obviously, is an incredible depth piece to that team. She's very close friends with Georgia. That's not going to hurt. And then you add Fed, who number one, he's the number one singles player in the world. And he is a top 5 right side guy, maybe top 3. And you can add him to, Will or no. I mean, I assume he's going to play with Will, but I guess you don't know. I guess it depends. And
Yeah.
then, what's your mixed matchup? I mean, do you put Fed with Annalie now? Like you have so much versatility. If they can figure out what combination works, they can definitely give the Shock a run.
Right, and I mean, I don't think it happens, but Fed can play the left too.
He can
And
play the
all
left.
those all those mixing and matching with the mixed matchups, I think it could go a number of different ways. I also do agree with the New Jersey desperation, and the recent results of the Shock maybe could have allowed uh, Orlando to find that money and asset, but I digress.
Yeah.
We'll move past that and see how it affects the line. So I personally will still say that I favor the Shock, even with the Fed acquisition, but you can't have more of a clear cut number one and number two team than as it stands right now. I mentioned that the Columbus Sliders were in the 3 spot still for me with the balanced roster, but they got absolutely dookied on by the Dallas Flash this past weekend in San Diego after winning women's doubles. I believe it was like 4, 5, and 4 in the men's doubles and the next 2 mixed. So we are top 2 heavy sliders, and then I would actually say a healthy Brooklyn, which we will talk about later, might not be the case for this event in Chicago, but probably should be the case for when the playoffs move around. I think the Drops, Brooklyn, and Flash are all extremely similar to me in the 4, 5, and 6 spots.
I don't disagree with you at all. One thing that I will say about two things. So we have this, KFC Barstool's been making these MLP videos, and it's cool to see, obviously, MLP go mainstream. But he made a comment about essentially super teams and how the fives are the first super team, reminiscent of LeBron and Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade all teaming up, right? And Ross took some exception to that because he feels like the Shock are a super team. So let me just for Ross Chafet's own, let me explain something for him. He actually deserves a little bit more credit than what he's giving himself because he actually built that team. He drafted that
Uh-huh.
team, Gabe and Hayden, when he picked them. Kate was not Kate when he selected her. In fact, Kate was a relative unknown at the time. And so Ross needs to give himself a little bit more credit. That's why they're not getting called, a quote unquote super team, where Harwood was like, we can't compete. The Shock are running away with it. And he went out and he bought the best team money can buy to try
Yeah,
and
I mean,
compete.
I guess there's something about like when you were talking about the Miami Heat and Bosh, D Wade, LeBron, like that was like constructed and bought. I mean, you actually
Yeah.
have to say that St. Louis, it was a farm system situation because Anna Bright was Anna Bright when they drafted her, but all 3 of the other players, starters on that team were developed. And not that they were poor players at the time, but they have all 3 taken massive leaps since when they were drafted, what was paid for them, and all of that. So I agree with that sentiment, and I will say these teams, you don't always know exactly who is pulling the strings. Ross is the GM. I'm sure he had a lot to do with what was going on, but AB was picked first. AB is savvy. She knows what's going on. So let's go ahead and throw AB some credit as well, along with Ross Chaffetz.
100%. I mean, look, remember AB, I believe Johnny Goldberg originally, had his eye on Rachel, but AB made the call and AB talked to Johnny and AB pulled the trigger on Rachel before anyone
Yep.
else too, right? Like
Yep.
she is savvy. You know, I remember, was it 3 years ago when we drafted in Central Park, right? At the time they had the back end and it was the Breakers had, I believe, 11 and Miami had 12. And so the Breakers were going to go 11 and 14. Miami went 12 and 13.
Yep.
And they had a legit discussion about who to take first, even though they knew they were going to get their exactly who they wanted in both of those slots. Miami too. Miami went Fed and Tyson, if you remember. And Breakers ended up going Etta and Leia. And the reason they had that discussion is because back then, the first round pick essentially selected the rest of the team.
Correct. Correct.
And so they had that discussion about, okay, who do we want helping select the rest of this team? And, AB has kind of taken the reins with that. And she still is very, very much involved.
I have done several drafts too, and with the first pick, sometimes you're in a text thread with them and they're like, oh, it's all good. Use your best judgment. You know what's going on. And sometimes it's like, hey, I want this, this, and this. And maybe if they fall, we should try this, this, and this. So it's very different.
Yeah.
Some players just get drafted and they're kind of done with it. Some players want to be very involved to see how it trickles down and what pieces are going to be there to complement them. So it is very different for all of the teams, and I think it will continue to be different for at least a period of time until we get a little bit deeper into the just how long the league has been available and how we have those slots for the GM and them making the for sure picks as opposed to getting info from other people.
100%. And I think with this new, salary cap situation and things coming in, the GMs, front office guys are going to be even more important, right? Because now we have math involved
Yeah.
and nobody wants to do their own math, right? So now you're going to, now we have math.
Yeah,
So
but like
Adam, one thing
baseball, like
yes.
I was just saying, like baseball, like they pay a ton of money for these front office guys, and those guys don't really give a damn about anyone else. A lot of times, I don't even think the coaches and the players are involved whatsoever. It is the analytical breakdown and just having the numbers and the AI and the whatever. And we are not there yet in pickleball, but of course, if it continues to grow, which I think it will, we will get to that point where it's GMs only making those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're literally teams that hire salary cap experts, and their only job is to make the numbers work and to know
Sure,
every
correct.
single rule, every loophole there is. So
Right.
we'll get there at some point for sure. We had the huge trade, the Fed, Millie, but there was another trade that happened as well. So LA Mad Drops, they struggled a little bit in their home tournament. They dropped an early one to the Bouncers. I think you and I both had LA as heavy favorites in this. This
Yes.
might be the first time Polymarket, if you would have taken our advice, you might have lost a little bit of money this week. But so they end up dropping one to the Bouncers, but everything's still aligned for them. We're Saturday night, 4:00, center court, packed house. They beat the Flash. They get to play Super Sunday in the one spot. Everything was still aligned, and the Dallas Flash came out and they put on a clinic,
Yep.
and they beat up LA pretty good.
Yeah.
So I want to talk
And
a little bit about that. LA ends up finishing third. Flash win their group and then end up beating Columbus. Mark Moulton got zero. And the Flash had 0 points in Austin. They didn't get a single point. They finished dead last in Austin. He reloaded in a hurry.
yep.
What's your take on the Flash? Are the Flash a top? Are they fighting for that bye now? Are they a top 4 team?
Yeah, I think it's very possible, and I'll tell you what had a lot to do with the Flash doing work in San Diego, and it was James Walter Johnson doing his thing and being extra aggressive, playing like an absolute stud. And we also see often on paper a left handed male and a left sided female in mixed underperform. And that has not been what's happening for Augustus Guh and Danny L. Townsend. So I think that they have quality mixed with that lefty, Augie Guh, Danny L. Townsend. Brooke Buckner stepped up in a big way to play mixed with J.W. Johnson and then have the Alex Trung pairing with Danny L. Townsend. It is a balanced roster. We talked about it in previous weeks, and I did not expect this from them, but I absolutely think that they are in the running to be the top tier of the Flash, the Drops, and Brooklyn after those top three with the Shock Fives and Sliders.
I agree. Now, I've talked to Danielle Townsend's coach, Ben Costin, quite a bit because obviously
Yep,
we have Sard and he on our team. And he told me that Danny trained a lot to play with a lefty male because she was expecting to play on the sliders with CJ.
sure.
And so she trained hard to be a left side girl in mixed. And when she was traded, Augie just ended up being the perfect fit for her because she'd been exclusively training that. She was ready, and she has fit in seamlessly.
Right. And I think it's actually one of her superpowers is to play so much court in women's, but it also sometimes bites her because she is vulnerable to roll dinks and speed ups when she's covering 70% of the court plus. But the thing is when she's on the left and mixed, she can play her sliver 30-40%, whatever it may be, and she has that spectacular backhand punch. So players can't just bully her or hit through her or attack her, especially in mixed doubles when she's less responsible for that much court, and it's been working well.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be that team is going to be a tough out. I mean, we know Molson received offers very similar to what the five sent for Fed, and he could have blown it up, and he could have kind of mailed it in and built for next year, and instead he reloaded. And I give Dallas a lot of credit for that because in terms of percentage wise, I mean they were you look at Polymarket, they were early on in the season, they were in that 9 to 14% range. And then they dropped all the way to like 1% at one point. And now they're back up there. I would say that, 15%. Look, the fives in the Shock are heavy favorites. But Dallas and Columbus are definitely in that 3-4 spot. And we've seen it.
Yeah. Right now, the numbers for 2026 MLP champion is 35 cents on the dollar for the Shock, 28 cents on the dollar for the fives, and then Brooklyn sliders and drops are all 8 cents and Flash are 6 cents. So I just, especially in the playoff format when you have to win 2 out of 3 matches against a team, like that is just absolutely scrumptious. The Shock and the fives at 35 cents and 28 cents. If that gets adjusted or tweaked a little bit, fine, but well under 50% for each of those teams, I think that that is absolutely juicy, and that is a situation where I would go pretty dang chalky and heavy on those two. And sliders, maybe you throw a little money that way. They were the spoilers last year at 8 cents on the dollar for a high risk, high reward pick. I just don't see right now how the Brooklyn, the Drops, and the Flash are going to be able to pull off a win against those top two teams, Shock and Fives.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And honestly, if you do not have your tickets to MLP New York and Central Park, buy them right now because Shock, Fives, Central Park is going to be electric.
For
It is
sure.
going to be absolutely electric.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Chicago because there is a lot for some teams to play for still, Adam. With this trade, Orlando was sitting in, I believe, the 9 or the 10 spot, maybe the 11 spot, the playoffs. this most likely, you know, bumps them out of that spot
Yeah.
unless Jack Sock can get hot, Yates Johnson, who knows, but probably bumps them out of that spot. My team, the Black Bears, have, we picked up 8 points this week, played in that third place game. Dylan Frazier is now joining the squad for the last two events. We're sitting right now in the 12, I believe, points per event. We're in the 12 or 13 spot, so right on the cusp. Do you think it's possible that the Bears can overtake Orlando in that spot?
Jimmy, I would much rather talk trash to you, but unfortunately, your team is pretty solid and well-rounded as it stands right now. So you have Sarah Dennehy, a little more unknown, but quality upside. Zoe Weil, who is very solid and I believe a little bit underrated. She played great against us. She won both of her doubles matches and then really put the hammer down in the Dream Breaker to get you guys over the hump against us. And you got homies. You got bros. You got Pablo Tellez and Dylan Frazier who have played together before. They're friends, they're close, they're tight, and I was very impressed with Pablo Tellez's play this past weekend in San Diego. He was locked in, he was intense. I did not see dips in level or dips in focus from him. So it literally physically pains me to say this, but I think you guys have a legitimate chance to win Group 1 in Chicago, and that is Miami, Cal Black Bears, Ranchers, Phoenix, and a hobbled Brooklyn, who we have rumors only that Rachel Rohrabacher will be only playing mixed, not women's, and Riley Newman might actually be out for the event.
Yeah, I mean, if those guys look, Brooklyn is the favorites with a healthy team for sure. I would probably put Ranchers at 2. I believe on Polymarket, it's 25% for Brooklyn to win the event, 18% for Ranchers, something like that. But if Brooklyn is hobbled, it opens things up. The top 4 teams are not there. So we have no fives, no Shock, Columbus, or LA. This could be anyone's, event. Like if there's an event where a team was going to make a run, and another great example is, for example, I mean, unfortunately they've been eliminated, but the Phoenix Flames are feisty. That's a team that they seem to push everybody to Dream Breakers. They haven't really been able to get over the hump yet. But this could be one of those events where, a team that needs, a big point total, a team that needs a 16, or they need to put up that big point total. This could be it.
No, I would say from a vibes, energy to points ratio, Phoenix is very high up there. Like I think that they play quality ball. They have some hunger. They had some fans there in San Diego that probably made the drive over. So yeah, they're pretty dang low in the standings, but I think they have the ability to upset some teams. And really, if Brooklyn has to throw in Hannah Blatt and Chris Hayworth, who I would say for Chris Hayworth, he's slightly worse than Riley in mixed, maybe a bit more significantly worse than Riley in men's doubles because Riley's such an elite ball maker. But Chris Hayworth has a ton of talent and some overwhelming skill set. So I would put you guys in the Ranchers as the favorites to come out of Group 1 if Brooklyn is shorthanded.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that that's crazy. Obviously, it always takes time to mesh. None of these, but where Pablo and Dylan, they were roommates. They're best friends. They, they played together. They played a lot of practice games together. So they should be able to step obviously right in
Yeah.
and gel there. It's interesting what you said about Pablo because a lot of people don't know this, but he was incredibly sick all weekend. Fever, like lethargic, and before every event, every game, he laid there. He looked like death, and he would get up, chug a Red Bull, and step onto the court, and he played phenomenal. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I
I wish he
actually
played
didn't know
like death.
Pablo. Yes. I didn't know he had that in him in mixed, Adam. I believe he went 5-1 in mixed on the weekend, his only loss being to Ben Johns. And honestly, him and Zoe played Ben and Jade pretty tough. Pablo missed a couple balls that, I think it just kind of finally took its toll on him, and it's Ben. But, he had a double Ernie at one point on Ben, and it was incredible. And so, yeah, if we can get that version of Pablo, anything can happen. Let's
Yeah, and I'll
look
say
at the other group here. Oh, go ahead.
right. Yeah, I was just going to say we have far exceeded our allotment of time to talk about the California Black Bears. So let's move over to Group 2 and discuss some of the other teams in there. Group 2, this is the group of 6. We have Dallas, Las Vegas, SoCal, Chicago, ATL, and Utah. And I think that it's a pretty clear cut, especially after the recent performance. Dallas is the top of that tier. And I think that you probably have to put the SoCal Hard Eights and ATL right underneath them. And then you have Utah, Las Vegas, and Chicago bringing up the rear on paper. But of course, anything can happen.
Yeah, so look, we didn't touch on this trade too much, but Connor Garnett was traded from Utah to the LA Mad Drops. Utah they really struggled in San Diego. I think they were a team most people probably had slotted in that 8 to 12 range preseason, and they've
Mm-hmm.
kind of hung around there a little bit, and then they've had quite a bit of a dip. I don't. It doesn't feel like Tama has taken that step. I would say that it's more of a Tama Connor Garnett kind of didn't mesh great, but now they do have Utah, who Tama is very used to playing with.
Right.
They went and traded back for Tyler Leung. It's like an abusive relationship they can't get out of. It's the most toxic high school relationship of all time. But Tyler Leung is back on the Utah Black Diamonds. Connor Pardo, Brokeback Mountain, can't quit you. But they, that team, they still have Elise. They still have Etta. You would think that team can figure it out. I mean, Etta and Victoria DeMuzio, they beat a women's team that was pretty freaking good. Was it Mari?
Was it Jade and Catherine? I have no idea.
I don't think it was Jade and Catherine. I think it was Mari and Jesse pretty handily.
Okay, yeah, solid team.
Yeah. And they played Victoria, but Etta was sick, missed some time. She's obviously dealt with a lot of health problems. So I would say that, they're Utah, you can flip flop any of those three. Chicago's kind of going with the full youth movement right now.
Sure.
With their team, they're in transition. I think it's clear cut. Dallas, I think you guys in Atlanta will battle it out. The winner of your match will end up in second place, is my guess.
Yeah, we took an L to them on Sunday in San Diego, but I do think it's reasonably evenly matched, and I think that our squad will be hungry for a little revenge against Atlanta for sure. So a couple of the percentages here for the Chicago winner. So we actually have the Flash sitting at 33%, Brooklyn at 24%, but there is a lot of variability in that number as we get the information of what kind of health their squad is going to bring to the table. 18% for Ranchers, both SoCal and California Black Bears at 9%, and ATL at 13%. And I think that is pretty reasonable. And the big outlier or variable there is the Brooklyn Health, because that 24% will certainly drop much lower if both of those rumors are in fact true.
Yeah, and would it shock you? This is what makes MLP great, Adam. Would it shock you if, I'll take our two teams out of it, but if the Ranchers win Group 1 and upset Dallas and they win the whole thing?
No.
Right? I
No,
don't think
not at
that
all.
would be that crazy.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that this Chicago event is pretty wide open. Like there are 4 or 5 teams. I mean, Atlanta, they just beat LA and they're playing pretty well right now. If Atlanta upsets Dallas and comes out of, Group B, I don't think anybody's super shocked by that. Jaume was played out of his mind in San Diego.
Great. Looks healthy, looks spry, not kind of hunched over and stiff with the back issues that he's had for months and months and months. I was very impressed with his movement. And of course, movement for a smaller competitor is so, so important. So if he doesn't have that, he's just a guy. But if he does have his movement, which is top tier, then he really has the ability to be a stud on any given day.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same way. I think that, this could be the most parity we see in an event all year long.
Right. So do
So
you want to watch? Do you want to watch the super teams, or do you want to watch a wide open field? I think both of them have a compelling case to be made for either one of those options. So this is the latter here in Chicago with a pretty wide open Group 1 and 2.
yeah, absolutely. Also a little breaking news on the pod is we just officially added Martin Emmerich to the California Black
Okay.
Bears. If Dylan goes down, double lefty Pablo Martin's going to be dangerous.
Who's on the left?
That's a good question. Probably Pablo. That's a good question. But we may make Martin play with his right hand.
Yeah, and
But
so I also one more thing I want to mention before we end this one is I really do, again, it pains me again. I think the California Black Bears lines are a little bit off, and I also think for a positive direction for you guys, and I also think that there's a few lines on Polymarket where Miami is not a big enough of a dog. I mean, they have traded so many players throughout. Right now, I would imagine that their starting lineup is SD Wiedershoven, Isabella Dunlap, James Delgado, and Anwar Braham, former California Black Bear. But I think that team against some more known commodities is going to have a struggle to win matches. So if you see a percentage or a cents on the dollar that's pretty lopsided there, or sorry, not lopsided, a little closer to 50-50, I think you have to bet against Miami. And I also thought this was funny, Jimmy. A tweet from Anna Bright was if you're still on Miami and they haven't traded you, do you start to get a complex? Because they trade everyone. So if you're still on the squad, what does
yeah,
that mean? Does that mean nobody wants you, or exactly
exactly.
how does that work?
Yeah, I mean that means that Johnny hasn't hyped you up enough, and like no, it's crazy, but I'm not sure anyone has more influence in MLP than Johnny Goldberg. I mean, Johnny Goldberg says somebody's good and everyone comes running. And he has
True.
been right more often than he's wrong, so I give him a lot of credit, but yeah, I mean, Nico Acevedo is a great example. The guy played one event and he had more suitors than Ben Johns. I mean, it was insane. Yeah, the amount of money they got for him. And by the way, Adam, kind of a funny thing I heard, a little rumor. I heard the New Jersey Fives threw essentially a mega package, like insane package of players at the LA Mad Drops to try and get Ben Johns. They
Really?
didn't care
That
who they had left as long as they had Ben and Annalie together.
Ben and
So
Annalie,
that'll
that's
give
all
you
that
an idea
matters.
of what they offered and how much money they offered.
Yeah, Ben, Annalie, and you and me, they would have taken
Yeah,
it for sure.
absolutely. And it was like, here's the rest of our roster and $1 million. What's it going to take?
Yeah. No, that is
So pretty,
interesting. That's a
yeah,
spicy
pretty
little
incredible.
tidbit there. Yeah. So, I
Yeah,
mean, Jimmy, we get to, we've been getting with the sixth episode. We get together once a week, and the amount of stuff that happens in those 7 days is just mind-boggling in the pickleball space. So we always have
it is.
stuff to talk about. There's always rumors. There's always some of those rumors come to fruition, and there is always some shifting in the lines on Polymarket with all these moving parts of pickleball. And to be honest with you, I absolutely love it. So a
Thank
joy to
you.
be on here chatting it up with you about all this stuff. And we'll be back next week, my guy.
Yes, absolutely. I'm excited for Chicago. Last little push before the playoffs. Let's see what happens. So we'll see you guys next week.